Colleague John Simpson there. Well, joining me live now from Islamabad is Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, who is chairman of the Pakistan People's Party. Bilawal, thank you very much for joining us here on the program, and good to see you. You were just listening there to Imran Khan. Just your reaction to some of the statements he's made about recognition of the Taliban and, of course, his concerns about how inclusive this government will be.
First of all, thank you so much for having me on, Yalda. And I was just listening to the Prime Minister giving an interview to your correspondent. We welcome what he is saying about Pakistan recognizing the government only after international consensus is formed. And I'd like to welcome that approach, but also suggest that he create that consensus within Pakistan. Unfortunately, ever since the recent developments in Afghanistan, the Pakistani parliament has not met on this particular issue, and there hasn't been any inclusive input from all stakeholders within Pakistan in forming our own policy. But as far as the Prime Minister's statements are concerned about international consensus vis-a-vis recognizing the Taliban government in Afghanistan, that is welcome.
So what would you like Imran Khan to do now in terms of informing Pakistan and your parliament about what the policy and the strategy going forward will be? Because, of course, you know, most analysts and most people feel that Pakistan has a lot of leverage over the Taliban right now.
Well, as soon as the situation developed in Afghanistan, my party, the Pakistan People's Party, called for the government of Pakistan to hold a session of parliament so that we could discuss this development. And unfortunately, as with various issues in our country, we've been unable to form that national consensus. We require inclusive foreign policy that includes the will of the Pakistani parliament and not at the whims of any individual. As far as Pakistan's influence over Afghanistan is concerned, I believe that is often exaggerated, but Pakistan should play its role to encourage an inclusive government in Afghanistan, the protection of women and children of Afghanistan, and working with international players to ensure that Afghanistan's soil is not used for the promotion of terrorism in the region.
Often it's heard across the border in Afghanistan, and many international analysts will say that the civilian government in Pakistan has very little say. It's the security establishment, the military establishment, the ISI, which controls the Taliban, and they are the sort of decision makers when it comes to the Taliban.
As far as civilians say in Pakistan is concerned, I think it's true to say the democratic space is shrinking in Pakistan, particularly under the government of Prime Minister Imran Khan. But in order for us to regain that space, it's up to democratic Pakistanis to play an active role within the political system, to regain that space through parliament and through the media. And not cede or appease in the way that Mr. Khan runs his domestic affairs. As far as the Taliban are concerned, I think that the role of the various agencies involved over the past 20 years will be analyzed by history, and there's a lot of time to debate and discuss that. In the immediate aftermath, it feels like victory has many fathers and defeat is an orphan. So at this moment in time, everybody seems to be blaming one another. But what is more important is for us to look at ways that we can work together to encourage a positive outcome for the region and for the international community, but for most of all, for the citizens of Afghanistan, for the women of Afghanistan, for the youth of Afghanistan, who've seen the promise of so much potential and are worried today that that promise and that potential is in danger.
And are you worried about the issues that Afghanistan could face, could spill over into Pakistan? Because, of course, Pakistan itself has long battled terrorism in the country.
Oh, of course, we're very concerned about the potential blowback from the developments in Afghanistan. We are concerned about the links between the Tehreek-e-Taliban Afghanistan and the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan. We have suffered immensely at the hands of violent extremism. In Pakistan, I lost my mother, former Prime Minister Benazir Bhutto, to Islamic extremism within Pakistan, and this is something that we worry will now be emboldened by the developments happening in our region and on our border. In order to counter that, we need a determination from the Pakistani government to ensure that there will be no space for extremism within or without our borders.
But Bilawal, we're already seeing, for example, in Islamabad, the Red Mosque has been battling over the last few weeks with the Taliban flag being raised over the Red Mosque, the controversial Red Mosque, which has dealt with terrorism itself.
Absolutely, we're seeing many elements emboldened across Pakistan, and that is exactly what we have to respond to. What we've learned from Afghanistan is that you can't battle extremism through bombs alone, and this has to be a battle of ideas, a battle of opportunity. We have to provide for the people of Pakistan. They have to have a stake and a voice in their in our system, as well as our economics. And unfortunately, that is not the case today. And when there is that sort of deprivation, then all sorts of negative influences can take advantage of the situation that develops.
What percentage of Pakistanis support the rise of the Taliban in Afghanistan?
I'm not an opinion expert. I couldn't tell you exactly how many, but I would say that the people of Pakistan, like the people of Afghanistan, are also exhausted after decades of war. And we are all hoping for the best. But what I'd like to reiterate is while we hope for the best, we should prepare for the worst. And that